Hello and welcome to Carfection's At the Drive-In, the show where we take apart car movies and look at them behind the scenes, under the hood, and, well, generally take them apart. I'm joined by Jorge, who joined us in the last episode as well, who's our professional racing driver and contributor to the channel you may have seen recently in our mini challenge videos, in which he actually took part. If you haven't, I recommend that you check them out now. How are you doing, Jorge?
I'm good. Thank you for having me back. I'm very excited about today. I've been pushing for us to do this.
Yes, well, because as I'm sure you're aware, there's a new Fast and Furious film out now, Hobbs and Shaw. The movie's out this week and we can show you a bit of the trailer now.
I'm dealing with the future of the planet. I'm the necessary shock to the system. I am human evolutionary change. Bulletproof. Superhuman.
Who the hell are you?
Bad guy.
Yeah, I'm unsure how I feel about the Fast and Furious film going in that direction. It's all-out action film now rather than just
I'm all for a spin-off.
For many of us, the Fast and Furious films are kind of what got us into car films a little bit. I was probably about 19 when the first one came out, and I remember it vividly, enjoyed it a huge amount. But today, we are talking about the greatest film in that franchise.
Arguably.
Not arguably, the single greatest Fast and Furious film of all time, which is
Tokyo Drift.
Tokyo Drift, yes. Some people have claimed that it's one of the worst. Those people are wrong. It is the best.
It has a lot going for it.
Now, before we delve deeper into Tokyo Drift, remember to hit the subscribe button if you want to see more movies from this series and all the other great stuff that we have on Carfection. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll stay notified of everything we get out on the channel. Well, we specifically want to talk about maybe the holes or even lack thereof in some of the driving.
Correct.
In the film itself.
Yes.
The film obviously starts set in the USA. With a fairly destructive car chase through a building
it's
plot.
Just your standard general
drag
race.
We quickly get transported to Japan and the world of Japanese cars.
That's it.
This does include the scene where he rolls up into his first kind of car meeting.
That's it. And may I just say, okay, we're probably going to talk a lot of smack about this movie, but soundtrack-wise, I think this is the best Fast and Furious of the whole series. The intro song, the DJ Shadow one, this.
Yep.
You can't not listen to this and not get pumped up for what's about to come.
That's it. It gets you in the scene as well. It makes sense to where it is. And yeah, that DJ Shadow track at the beginning is one of my favorites. So that definitely ties it in. And if the actual car scene in Japan is like this, I think I need to make a trip to Japan because that just feels like it's really exciting.
Carfection needs to make a video about the car scene in Japan. We should all go out there and check for ourselves.
Yeah, I think that goes without saying. So I guess the idea is that not maybe everyone in the US, but for a large section of people, this may have introduced the idea of drifting as a concept, as something.
As a culture, for sure.
Because we're talking, 15, 16 years ago, like way before the drift scene was as big and professional as it is now.
Yeah.
Slightly more fringe, especially outside of Japan. So he is Bama Boy is basically us in this case. He is there, he's like discovering it, like, what is drifting?
He's just walked into a completely new world. And yeah, you're right, this movie came out just on the cusp of when drifting, a lot of people attribute drifting becoming big because of this movie, but I think drifting was kind of already on the rise and they just sort of cashed in on that, so to speak.
They timed it just
right. And it's obviously cyclical. I mean, we saw then drift kind of disappear a little bit and now it's back a bit more. But I think, this is kind of, you can call it the golden age of drifting, I suppose. And this is when this film is set.
Look, man, this car right here is like the Mona Lisa of the drift world. We talking forged pistons. Bigger turbo, new rods, new crankshaft. Hey, man, Hans labor ain't cheap, man, you feel me?
I needed a 30-second lesson on how to drift.
All right, look, man, there's lots of ways you can do this, all right? Handbraking is the easiest. So the first thing I want you to do, I want you to rip that e-brake. All right, after you rip the e-brake, then I want you to power.
I mean, it's not exactly the Matrix, like, I know drifting now.
This is it, like it's...
He says, rip on the e-brake and then power on, or power over.
He just says power over. It doesn't actually say,
power
whatever power over is, I'm not too sure.
So what do you think he's trying to say, and what should he be saying?
I think what he's trying to say is that the easiest way to initiate a slide would be with a handbrake, which is generally true.
Is
There
he
are-
trying to suggest that you lock up the wheels and then you give it so much power that they don't grip up again? Is that what he's trying to suggest?
Yeah, I believe so. I
Yeah.
believe what he's saying is you gotta break that traction and then just get on the power to keep it going. But wow,
Okay,
if there's ever a basic explanation to what drifting is, that is it.
Imagine I'm Bama Boy.
Okay.
You're Lil Bow Wow. I need a 30-second lesson on how to drift, man. Tell me
Okay.
what to do. Go.
So, no power-overing here. What you need to do, obviously, you're going to carry up a little bit of speed up to the corner.
Yeah.
You want to just be ready to pull the handbrake, but before you pull the handbrake, you actually have to disengage the clutch. You have to disengage the rear axle, let's call it that way.
Yeah.
So you go clutch down, pull the handbrake, turn the steering wheel at that point, come off the clutch, and then get on the power.
I was taught TCP.
Right.
Turn,
so-
clutch, pull.
Yeah, it's
In
kind
that
of like,
order.
yeah,
Turn,
exactly.
clutch, pull. So the two cars that are here, we've got
Should
two
we-
completely
yeah,
different cars. Yeah. So
Should we
what
start
car is
there?
Bamba Boy in here?
So Bama Boy is in an S15 with allegedly with an R34 engine in it, so a GTR R34 engine. And then we have DK or Drift King in a 350Z, which in my opinion is actually, I'm not saying a better car, but it would be another very good car to turn into a drift car.
So the 350Z is, like, despite its kind of geometry, it's relatively
yeah, it
short,
seems like it's got a
stubby car.
shorter wheelbase, but it's actually a very well balanced car. In my opinion, if I was to just build sort of a drift car to go and do some drifting at the weekends, the 350s actually, you can get them quite cheap. You can, tune them quite easily. They've got enough power kind of as it is as standard. They've got an outlet limited slip differential as standard. Obviously you can then go crazy and spend thousands and thousands of pounds to turn it into a professional drift car. But I think as a sort of a mid-range, just as you'd buy a car to go and do track days at a weekend, a 350Z would be a great car to do drift days at a weekend, if you know what I mean, so, in my opinion.
Maybe there's a Carfection film in that. Note to self, look into second-hand 350Zs. So we've got the S15 with the R34 engine
That's it,
and
yeah.
presumably a not completely stock 350Z, but one with
Sure.
he's got some body kit modifications clearly on there.
Very important for drifting, obviously.
Very important to have the right body kit. But you still have to show up and look cool.
That's it, and he is the drift king.
He is the
Like,
Donkey Kong
He is.
of the
drifting.
scene. Doesn't want to embarrass himself in front of Lil Bow Wow.
Exactly.
Would never live that down. And so we were exposed to ours and Bama Boy's first drift race.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is it. This is where it all starts. He somehow offended the Drift King.
I've already
and,
forgotten how.
Yeah, doesn't matter. And we find ourselves in this situation.
Okay, so this is a first blast in, and he thinks
Yeah,
he's winning
straight
because
away,
he's pulled ahead.
You get that smug face of just outdragged him at the start, and then the first corner comes up, and oh my god, what is
See,
it?
what he's done is he pulls the handbrake, but then takes his hand off the handbrake. It looks like he never let go of the
I
handbrake.
think, yeah, it looks like exactly that. And then you see DK there, he actually just clutch kicks it into that corner.
Yeah.
So no need to yank the handbrake and pow over.
Right.
He just literally clutch kicked it into the.
So is that all you would need to do coming in? Is just
one of the things that, again, in a professional drifting championship competition, where you'd be driving at a corner at 10 times the speed that they're doing, the handbrake is most likely the technique you're going to use. But then sort of when you're transitioning between corners or sort of tighter corners, when you've already initiated the slide, you can just clutch kick, because obviously that just rises the revs and the engine. And then obviously when it engages again, the rear wheels are just going to spin a bit more and just keep the traction broken and just keep it going around the corner sideways. So really, again, at that speed, what he did there is perfectly, that is very, very accurate.
So, but realistically, in that kind of that hairpin turn initially, just coming in and flicking in and clutch kicking at the right point.
If you think that Bama Boy was actually going way too fast, which is why he ended up crashing into that pillar, pulling the handbrake at that speed with obviously no technique involved whatsoever. DK, you can see by his sort of smug face that he kind of already knew that was going to happen, or something was going to happen, that he basically just hung behind and clutch kicked the car into that corner. So it's literally, he's just on the power, clutch down, and as he drops the clutch, it's not the moment where you press the clutch that just obviously disengages everything and the car is actually not doing it. It's the moment when you then come off the clutch and it engages again, and it just gives you that jolt.
Right.
A lot of the times you'd go down a gear as well, and that's what's called shift lock. So if you were in third gear there, clutch down to second, and as you'd come off the clutch, the back end would just sort of lock momentarily, and so they're almost like pulling the handbrake. So
I feel like now is a very good point to say, do not try this in your local Tesco car park. You will put it in the wall and destroy both your reputation at Tesco and your car.
So here, right, so this, what you see there, obviously that's CGI. Okay?
Yeah.
So this falls back to even, I'd say, once when the drift craze started becoming quite big with things like Initial D, you know, the anime series, you see that a lot, the 1-inch drift, you know, like if you're a drift master, you're so good at it that you can slide a car an inch from a wall, not actually crash, just get it that close anytime you want. So that's obviously how they're alluding to the fact that he's the drift king, because he can do that.
There's a lot of people here standing in very dangerous places, considering that the guy driving
They obviously
clearly has
don't
no
know
idea.
that he's just come from the US and he's having his first go at drifting.
The fact he's just gone sideways.
His 1-inch challenge obviously didn't go so well there.
1-inch challenge makes it sound really dirty. I'm sorry, it really does. The problem is that they're representing drifting here as a race.
Yeah, the thing, obviously, it's Hollywood. It's got to be, there has to be something in it for them to race, you know what I mean, for it to be a competition. But the concept of drifting as a race, as who gets to the end first, it's not really a thing. It's not really, when you go to a drifting competition, the way it works is, or the way it generally works is, you have a panel of judges, and based on your speed, angle, even things such as tire smoke, style, it's kind of like ice skating, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get a score. Nowadays, Mad Mike, I believe you've been the guy, very famous Mad Mike with it. He's now recently come up with a thing called the Red Bull Drift Shifters, where they calls it sort of pinball, giant drifting pinball thing, where you just basically, it eliminates the human side of it, the judges. So you have to drift as fast as you can, at as much of an angle as you can, as close to the walls as you can. You have sensors scattered everywhere around this course, and you just rack up points. And then if you can do certain obstacles in sequence, and that gives you combo points. You know, it's quite cool to watch. I know a few people who've been in professional drifting competitions, and not one of them doesn't have a story about a judge that doesn't really like them, and for some reason they get a little bit less points. So I think eliminating the human side of thing and making it exciting to watch like that is, I think, it's the way forward.
So it's timed, it's measured, it's scientific.
But by no means, you know, it's nothing to do with who crosses the line first.
Yeah. This is one of the most painful things about this, is watching all these nice cars just get destroyed.
And it's such, like, literally every time he's had an accident here, he's just going too fast. That's all it is. He's going way too fast. Obviously, he has no control, no concept of what drifting is, but if he wasn't going that fast, he wouldn't have crashed, you know what I mean? So.
But the thing is that if he wasn't trying to drift and was just trying to go fast, he probably could have got around quicker anyway.
He could easily have won this race. So, because again, you know, just sliding around is not the easiest, not the fastest way.
Now this
for me is the redeeming feature of this whole section. Because
that looks pretty like that they've actually done it.
So going back, no, they did, but that's the thing. A lot of people think it's CGI. That was actually Rhys Millen, one of the stunt drivers. I think he was actually stunt coordinator in the whole movie. They basically said, look, wouldn't it be cool if you could get this? Let's build some rails, put the car on rails, and he said, no, I'll do it. And apparently, so the story goes, he did it first time, blew their minds, and they did it a few more times just for good measure, just to and. It's not impossible, but it's incredible. Like it is.
It doesn't look like there's much give.
It looks awesome.
Because front and back, the car looks like it's.
He must have less than a foot either side of the car, and it's one of those. You know, you just got to kind of commit. You could probably, I mean, the entrance. You could maybe have done. I'm not saying they did, but you could have maybe done it in two parts. The car kind of stopped here, set off, get the rear wheel spinning, and then just sort of enter there. But it looks to me like, he's already halfway up anyway, so you should just keep it going. I think it's, just excellent driving.
It is great, and that shot of the car coming round, it looks so
There's
impossible.
Supposedly a video of it online somewhere of it actually happening. I've never seen it. I'd love to see it, but you know, from the top.
I mean, that's where the 350 says shorter wheelbase comes in handy a little bit, because you can get it more sideways going around there. It is a spectacular stunt.
It is, and it really rounds up the whole race nicely, I think.
Yeah, I mean, again, it would be quicker just to drive up,
but you know, then it would be Fast and Furious Tokyo, you know.
Good point, well made. Tokyo drive straight.
Tokyo I could just drive.
Oh, he seems quite happy about the fact
Yeah.
that he's beaten this guy who's never done this
Who's
before.
never done drifting before.
It's like, well done you. It's like beating a baby at arm wrestling.
And he's obviously just forgotten how to use his arms.
It's just like, at some point, you
It's
just
like, I
gotta
get
give
it,
up.
you can't drift, but just
He
come on, man.
tries to do something right to the last bit, and that has to be admired. And the fact that he's trashed a perfectly serviceable S15 body.
the Mona Lisa.
The Mona
cars,
Lisa, of
apparently.
course.
Now here, I'm going to actually call back to what you just said about not going drifting in your local Tesco car park. Definitely don't, but also don't go drifting for your first time around a harbour full of stuff for you to hit.
Yeah.
So I'd say, you know, if you want to start getting into drifting, you definitely want to find like an open space or a specific space where you can start by just, you know, doing donuts, start spinning on the spot, start doing your figures of 8 and things like that. Because then even if you mess up, you're not going to hit anything. You know, it's great to then have some obstacles to actually practice around, but drawing them on the floor is probably just as good, and you don't run the risk of actually destroying the car. I'll give them that this is quite realistic in that when you start trying to drift, more often than not, you're going to be going way too fast, faster than you need to. The back end will step out and you won't know what to do. You won't be quick enough at applying opposite lock. You know, all those things. That's it. That's exactly what he's doing. But again, just eliminate the hazards around you, and then you'll still have a car to keep practicing. Because if you destroy your car before you can even get a slide going, then it's not good.
And this scene has the famous cameo in it
Yes. Yeah.
of the man himself.
Tsuchiya-san.
Yes.
Keiichi Tsuchiya. So the actual real Drift King, who, you know, is obviously a moniker that was given to him after he released that tape all those years ago. What must have been in the 80s, 87, something like that, of him drifting around a mountain in his AE86, so a Toyota Corolla. Very famous car, obviously. When you talk about drifting, you talk about that car. He actually does some driving in the movie, and they did a lot of driving and consultancy as well. Don't seem to have a lot of trouble with traffic and police here in this movie. It's just there's the center of Tokyo and there's absolutely zero traffic.
So Han has
Fair play though. Han is cool.
Han is the man.
Han is the
He's
man.
obviously over the fact that Gal Gadot has died in the previous movie. Doesn't seem to care about that so much anymore.
He's been over.
But I wanted to touch on the car because we were talking about this earlier, and we have a slight disagreement about this RX-7.
Yeah.
Now, I quite like the body kit on this. I think it makes it look like kind of a Japanese McLaren. I quite like it. I think it looks kind of stylish, but you're not a fan.
Personally, I'm not a fan. I think it's not an RX-7 really. It doesn't even look like an RX-7
It doesn't,
in any
no.
way, shape or form. And I'm the sort of, I just no. It's just not for me. I mean, I don't know, the color, the back end kind of looks cool. You're sort of making me think about this a bit more than I wanted to just go with not liking it, but it's not the worst car they've used in a Fast and Furious film.
You see it on the windscreen and on the headrest. This is veil side.
Yeah, it's a veil side body kit.
The ladies in the R33 seemed
They
suitably
liked it.
impressed.
So what does my opinion matter? You know.
There's no wax on, wax off for drifting. Learn by doing it.
So we now take it up to the mountains to actually try in situ.
I want to say what he said there, the whole sort of there's no wax on, wax off with drifting. You just got to learn by feeling. It's a bit romantic, but that is true. That is literally when people come to me and they're like, oh, you know, how do you do a donut? How do you do this? How do you get a transition sort of mid-slide? Do it 300 times, you know, and it will happen. You know, you can know how to do it. You can know the theory behind it. But you just got to do it over and over again, and eventually it just starts becoming second nature, and you know exactly when the car is going to do what it's doing, and you can prevent it or correct it or work with it, or you know. So, yeah, definitely. Once again, maybe not straight away on a mountain road, which I'm assuming probably would have traffic, but again, no traffic in this movie, so it's not a problem. But yeah, just doing. By doing, you'd learn a lot quicker.
On a practical level, here in the UK, if someone did say to you, I really want to learn how to drift, do you know of anywhere that you'd say, go there and do that?
Well, yes, Rockingham used to be the place to go to, which is now sadly closed. There is a place in Scotland apparently called Driftland. I've never been personally.
We
but
have a film on that on the channel.
Yeah, okay, well, there you go. And I suppose Anglesey hosts quite a lot of drift days. Goodwood has now started hosting some drift stuff, which is
Goodwood is where I had a passenger ride with Mad Mike.
Yeah, there you go. So there are just honestly, if you go online, you will find places. Now that Rockingham's not around, people are working to sort of bring other options to the table. And I don't think that obviously if you have private land, I know that not everyone's going to have that, but if you have a big space, private land, that's probably the way to start doing it. Even the farm, even if on loose gravel, just so you can understand what the sort of weight transitions and things like that, that's also a good idea. Just don't do it in a public place because that's not cool.
How did you learn?
By thrashing cars that belonged to people I worked for.
Maybe that is the best way of learning.
If it's not your car.
Rule number 1, do it in someone else's vehicle.
Yeah. That is just...
So we're getting to the point now where Bama
where they've
Boy...
just given up.
Yeah, Bama
CGI
Boy
is now
figured
gone
it
into
out.
warp speed.
Yeah, and apparently is gone upside down. He's going so quick. So there's some tandem drifting here, which is the far more recognized way of doing
That's
it.
it. And that is super cool. Obviously, that's again in competition drifting. That's the best part of it is when you've got obviously the chaser, and they're trying to get as close to each other as possible. The guy in front is trying to outdo the car behind in terms of sort of getting as sideways as possible, in a way that the car behind can't predict or can't get close to, and the guy behind is just trying to reply at every movement that the car in front does. They want to try and get as close to the door as they're chasing doors, as they call it, and just try and get as close as possible with as much style as possible, without crashing, obviously. So so that was quite a cool representation.
It would have been a very different kind of movie if the climax was them trying to do this harmonious dance through the mountain roads.
Exactly, I suppose. So he's now obviously battling the second in command, the Drift Prince, let's call him that.
Yeah.
And what you saw there, and they might show it again, and bam, right there.
Oh yeah.
So that is Keiichi Tsushiya's personal AE86, making a cameo as well as the man himself.
And is he actually driving that car at the time?
Yeah, exactly. So it might actually be him doing the driving on it.
That's the thing with the AE86. It seems like such an unassuming car, and especially compared to all the body kits and extra spoilers and everything in these cars. But yet it's the one that has the most cred as a drift car.
Again, obviously, Initial D has a lot to answer for that. The anime, because obviously the whole story.
In that one, it's liveried up as a delivery car.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. It was Bunta Fujiwara, who was the owner of the car, and then Takumi Fujiwara, his son, who delivered tofu in the middle of the night. And obviously it was a bit of a burden to him, and he just happened to drift his way up and down the mountain because it was the quickest way to come back to bed and then go to school the next day. So that's kind of the premise of Initial D there, right? Straight away. But all of a sudden that car just became an icon because it's a relatively, sort of lightweight car for the time. It had the same engine that the Toyota MR2 Mark I had, they both had the same engine, the 1.6 engine, 4 AGE, and it kind of just made enough power to chuck around the mountains, with a limited slip differential. And that's it, that's all you needed, really. And then obviously, you can modify it, and they are modified nowadays. Jesus, they're very expensive, and you can get some crazy builds. But they are a cult car. They're which obviously they had to make a cameo in the movie here, but I don't think they would have won America over with that as a hero car in this movie. So,
no, I don't. Well, I'm trying to think when initially.
Thinking compared to the body kits and the Evos and the time, the 350Z and even the S15, obviously maybe not so much, but they were cars that were relatively current. The Evo 8 was relatively current. So
yeah, the 350Z very popular in the US as well with boy races.
Absolutely,
so it ties in perfectly.
Now, stop everything because. This is
your favourite scene in the movie?
This is my least favourite scene in this movie because, I get trying to sort of build a story in tandem with the whole no pun intended, I get trying to sort of build the story between these two, but doing it whilst they're tandem drifting down a mountain, is just, come on, man, it's just too cringy. I get it. Look, they're drifting around. It's clearly, obviously, they've wet the road, so it's not super flat out drifting. There's not loads of smoke. It's kind of a sort of more slow-paced drifting exercise, let's call it that. But she's just there like, life and stuff. Barely like turning the wheel and they're just having a heart-to-heart, and this just, I don't know, it just grinds my gears.
You would be a lot more active than that if you had it that sideways.
I think we could probably cut a clip right here now and show what it actually feels and looks like. Why are they zigzagging through those pillars?
Serpentine.
You know? They're trying to run away from someone, and they're
Just drive straight, people. It's quicker.
Yeah, I think this is the one bit in the movie where they could have gone, okay, maybe dial it back on the drifting a little bit, because it is a chase after all. But like you said, they are doing it, and they're doing it for real. The bits that are done for real look cool. So
I do like because the color and the mods and the body kits of these cars just give you such a visceral thing, and all these cars they stick out from all the J cars just dotted around so much. It gives them such a visceral feel to it. We've got 3 very different cars here. With we've got a rotary engined RX-7 with a nice body kit, a Mitsubishi Evo, and a 350Z, all racing down the streets. And then going I love this as the crowd parts like the Red Sea and
it's almost like
this is the scene that now ties in, because we're at the end of Fast and Furious 6. We now see is it Hobbs or Shaw? I forget which one's
Shaw, I believe, right?
Deckard Shaw, yeah. He's slightly off camera going, oh, I'm definitely going to run into Han. Yeah. And then he does.
He's just picking his moment.
Yeah. And it is kind of fun to kind of rewatch that now and see the scene in the context of Fast and Furious 6. Again, a film we'll save for another day, but it's not the most dignified death for a car. See, as soon as you bring guns into it, why bring a gun to a car fight?
Exactly.
It is already. You can kill enough people with your car. You don't need to bring a gun.
You almost did, just driving through this.
And but unfortunately, this is where Han meets his untimely death.
Sadly so.
And explodes. Which is, I guess, so now makes sense, because he does actually die there, but we see him in the next Fast and Furious film. Yeah. And we're like, oh, he must have survived.
That was, again, I think, just by popular demand, It's one of those. And this here, right at the end, you get the best sort of that J turn into sort of a bit of a power slide, which is kind of similar to what we spoke about when we did the Baby Driver video. He's obviously just trying to escape, powers out of it as quick as he can. It looks quite cool. And this brings us to the
climactic race, where they've decided that the Yakuza are fine with settling matters of honor by a drift race. Which is not a thing. And it's not the most spectacular. In fact, the earlier races seem more fun.
I think this is one of my problems with this movie, is that this race, it's almost like just they've built up and built up just for that last stunt that we're going to see at the end of this race. It's not a big enough payoff for me. It's I think some of the other races before, some of the other driving sequences were a lot more impressive than this. But this is DK's mountain, apparently, so he owns this place,
He's still in his 350Z, but we now get to see the Mustang drifting.
Yeah, so the Mustang that obviously inherited the R34 engine from the Silvia that Bama Boy absolutely destroyed at the beginning of this movie.
But the engine was
when
fine.
He couldn't drift a week ago.
Yeah, and a Mustang, because this is the Mustang body which he's found that his dad is working on when he first comes to Japan. Now, if this had like a stock chassis, would there be any way you could pull any of this off?
There's this particular car. I mean, I know they built it, and I know they actually put it together for this movie. It was a custom built, but you couldn't just drop the drivetrain in it and go drifting like this without some major upgrades, some major suspension upgrades. It's definitely possible, but again,
when you start to question the whole idea of a drift race, the whole sequence falls apart, because if you wanted to cross the line first, just go past him. Just go past him, Bama Boy.
It's exactly that. The way, so this would be, the closest thing to this would be like a toge type race, as you call it, as they do in Japan. And the idea would be to, again, you'd both start at the top, and it's not so much who crosses the line first, is who can keep up with the other one. So you'd actually do it sort of twice, so to speak, and again, kind of like you're doing a drift competition, someone would go in front to start with, and then you'd swap. And if whoever could get away from the other car, even still whilst drifting, whoever could get away from the other car would get the advantage. But it doesn't matter, even if you cross the line first but the other car was still there, technically that's kind of a win to that car. Does that make sense? It's a bit of a it's more like if the 350Z had started first and had left the Mustang in the dust, then that would be a win, so to speak. But if the Mustang had actually managed to keep up, even if they didn't cross the line first, that's sort of a
Yeah.
that's
I feel
score a point.
Yeah. I feel it makes more sense for it to be one or the other. Either
Exactly,
an
exactly.
artistic side-by-side
Exactly.
drifting thing or just a race.
Exactly. But there we go. We get to the end here with a bang. Really,
Yeah,
literally.
I'm not entirely sure about the physics of running someone off the road up here and then getting down to where they land before they get there.
Before they actually.
It seems
I mean.
it seems unlikely that that would make sense. But again,
Yeah.
Hollywood.
Listen, and that's it.
That's it. Job
What
done.
I like though is that he may have just died, and everyone is
cheers.
ecstatic.
It's like, yeah,
Like, he won.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care how much they dislike the guy. Like
Yeah,
cheering
exactly.
at him,
There's
potentially
no-
dying like that is not cool.
And
People.
I'm still not sure what they were racing about. What the
I can't remember. It's
what they were.
something about honor. I don't know.
Someone owed someone money.
Bama Boy is hard to kind of.
Obviously, he
understand
tried
at
to
this
steal his
time.
girlfriend. There is that.
Yeah.
It's money, honor, love. I think that's
And
what they were
cars.
racing for. And cars.
So not with a bang, but with a whimper, Tokyo Drift comes to an end. But still, this is my favorite film in the series. It's the last one that really still embodies car culture.
All I'll say is that this is the one we're talking about.
Everything that isn't related to driving cars are just little bits of story around the edges. It's still something
Yeah.
that fundamentally looks at car culture. It's something that's still influential in terms of
It
getting
was, yeah,
people
and it's still,
into that world, in the same way that the first Fast and Furious film kind of awakened some people to the idea
Yeah.
of custom car culture. And it's the last real Fast and Furious film, in
I
my
agree.
humble
I agree.
opinion.
I would have cringy street races over cringy cyborgs. But I haven't seen Hobbs and
God,
Shaw, so
yeah. Idris
I'll
Elba's a
reserve my
cyborg.
judgment.
Well, yes. Hobbs and Shaw is out in theatres right now, and you can go and enjoy that film. And maybe at some day in future we'll find a car scene in it that's worth talking
I
about.
think there was one, maybe.
I'm sure they've
There'll be more.
shoehorned in a
There
car.
will be more, but
I think it's a union thing. If you've got Fast and Furious in the title, there has to be at least one driving shot. But yeah, if the franchise didn't die with Paul Walker, it certainly has now. But is Tokyo Drift your favorite film in the Fast and Furious franchise? I'm sure it is. I think it should be, but please let me know below. I'm sure you all agree. But until the next one of these episodes, George, thank you so much for coming in and giving us your professional insights and actually how to do these things are very valuable indeed. And if you have a car film that you would like us to give the At the Drive-In treatment to, leave it in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay notified of all the new films on Carfection. Until the next time, we'll see you soon.